Now, this may not surprise you, but the left is lying again.
But this administration has just given up. Over the weekend, the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, went on television and admitted that they've waved the white flag and declared surrender.
What a fraud this man is. Of course, he's talking about COVID. Neither the president nor his team have given up on anything, but Biden has. Everything about his presentation and his tone just reeks of surrender. It's so bleak. He wants America to be permanently defined and changed, and he's all in for using this Chinese virus to do it. And while Biden cynically hides his real COVID agenda, the experts he'll be slavishly following have already spilled the beans.
I think it will be easily by the end of 2021 and perhaps even into the next year before we start having some semblances of normality. If you can get restaurants to open at almost full capacity, if you could have sporting events to be able to be played with spectators, then I think that's going to be well into 2021 and perhaps beyond.
I thought he didn't talk about anything except medicine, okay? I thought that. Well, that man should carry around a miniature goalpost with him for each media appearance, and then he should move it when he speaks, because that's what he's done with COVID metrics. Now, remember 15 days to slow the spread to save the hospitals? Well, now it's forcing us into years of misery, years of isolation and economic devastation, all put on America in order to supposedly eradicate the virus completely. Now, back in April, I first warned you about the danger of this COVID goalpost shifting. The curve was flattened. But now that's not good enough. Now they tell us we can't go back to our old life until almost a new bureaucracy is created to save us. The goalposts keep shifting on what has to be done. How can the public be confident in what they're hearing from the health officials if things keep changing? Wow, we've been doing this for a long time. Now we're told that shutdowns are heroic and opponents of shutdowns are selfish. Of course, the New York Times today hailed Melbourne, Australia as a success story. Why? Because they were emerging from a, get this, 111-day lockdown. 5 months with people not being able to travel more than about 3 miles from home, no restaurants, no sports, no churches. They couldn't even go outside for longer than an hour at one point. They're still not allowed to hug their friends. Their economy is shredded. But that's what they wanted. But is that what we want? Most Americans probably don't realize what their lives will become in a Biden-Harris presidency. The media know that Democrats will be hurt politically if Joe's coming shutdowns are widely publicized now. Thus, they only report skewed data with zero context to scare grandma and suburban women into supporting Biden. Now, Europe already showed us that restrictions and long lockdowns don't work. They did all that, shattering their economies in the process, and yet their case numbers are still now exploding. And intent to build on their failure, Europe is doing it all over again. Talk about giving up. It's the definition of insanity. And liberals here have given up in other areas as well. They've given up on our history, so, they allow it to be trashed and defamed. They've given up on traditional shows of patriotism, because after all, the anthem and the flag are vestiges of a systemically racist nation. They've given up on the rule of law, watching as cities are looted and burned. The liberals have given up on the Constitution, on the Second Amendment, and basically they're done with the entire First Amendment. Again, it was written by a bunch of old dead white guys. Think about how wild this is. When Clinton ran in 1992, his campaign theme was, "Don't stop thinking about tomorrow." Very hopeful. For Obama, it was all about hope and change. It's beautiful. But for Biden, it's all doom and gloom, the long, dark winter he wants to drag us into. Just look at him. He's constantly scowling. And listen closely. He's laying the predicate for what his experts will tell him to do: shut it down.
Even if I win, it's going to take a lot of hard work to end this pandemic. I'm not running on the false promise of being able to end this pandemic by flipping a switch. We'll let science drive our decisions, and we'll never, ever, ever quit. That's how we'll shut down this virus.
Very inspiring. Number one, President Trump didn't say he'd flip a switch to end the pandemic. Number two, you can't, quote, shut down a virus by hiding from it. Immunity can only be acquired three ways. First, you can get the bug and survive it, herd immunity. Second, you can get vaccinated and the vaccine doesn't hurt you or even kill you. And third, you're already partially or entirely immune due to something called cross-reaction with other viruses. And that's where T-cell immunity comes in. So when Biden says we're going to let the science drive our decisions, that means unelected medical experts will dictate when our kids can go to school, when we can go to church, and when we can drive or travel anywhere to see relatives or friends. Democrats have opted to use fear instead of substantive arguments to win this election. And the ultimate sign that the left has given up on America is when they work overtime to silence their opponents. Remember, it all started on college campuses, and now the censorship is being perfected on social media. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter's Jack Dorsey, they testified today, virtually of course, before a Senate committee today. They denied any intent to influence the election despite the fact that they censor Trump but protect Biden, as Twitter did with the Hunter Biden story.
Why did Twitter make the decision to censor the New York Post?
We had a hack materials policy.
They weren't hiding what they claimed to be the source. Is it your position that Twitter, when you can't tell the source, blocks press stories?
No, not at all. Our team made a fast decision.
But what happened just a few weeks ago when a story about the president's tax returns came out?
Did Twitter block the distribution of the New York Times' story a few weeks ago that purported to be based on copies of President Trump's tax returns?
We didn't find that a violation of our terms of service and this policy in particular because it was reporting about the material. It wasn't distributing the material.
Okay, well, that's actually not true. They posted what they purported to be original source materials, and federal law, federal statute makes it a crime, a federal felony, to distribute someone's tax returns.
Ted Cruz just schooled these guys. These tech companies have abused their power and are now acting essentially as an outside censorship bureau for the Democrats. Where would that leave the voices of independent thinkers during a Biden administration? You'd be silenced. That's where it'd leave you. The left's efforts to shut you down and lock you in will continue until the Democrats begin to feel real political pain. Blue state governors in Michigan, New York, Illinois, and California, they obviously don't care about the needless emotional turmoil they're inflicting on children and families. But President Trump has never given up on you.
With your help, your devotion, and your drive, we are going to keep on working, we are going to keep on fighting, and we are going to keep on winning, winning, winning.
In fact, all of the people on the political scene today, of all of them, perhaps in the entire world, the president is the most optimistic. He trusts and he loves the hardworking people of this nation, and unlike Biden, he doesn't believe the government has the right to manipulate them into giving up their freedoms or their dreams because of a virus. The president doesn't downplay the tragic consequences of COVID, but instead he forges ahead as we rapidly develop vaccines and other therapeutics. And by the way, his optimism isn't blind optimism, it's informed and it's necessary. Our government has no right to deny us our basic liberties until the experts are satisfied. Where's that in the Constitution? On Tuesday, we'll either choose a future of prosperity, freedom, and happiness, or one of decline, despair, and lockdowns.